right. Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya coming at you in the spirit and power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. But before I get started, as always, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rekah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and whom I learned this truth from. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shalom. It's another Saturday prophesying in this wicked kingdom, Babylon the Great, which the majority of these people out here know as the United States of America, ruled by the basest of men, the lowest of the low amongst the nations, the biblical Edomites, these so-called white people. And hey, if you've been paying attention to news and current events, you can clearly see that this world as a whole is collapsing on every level. Talks of world wars, nuclear wars, economic collapses, food shortages, and all that. But the majority of people out here, especially in this place that dwelleth carelessly, as it says in Isaiah 47, the United States of America, a majority of people out here are going about their daily lives like everything's normal, not like the world's on fire all around us. And with this lesson, I was originally going to go into, just the nuclear destruction. And that's probably, the spirit may lead it back to that, which I do want to touch on that a little bit. This may more or less be a various topics lesson, but the spirit got onto me just to get into how the majority of these people in America dwell carelessly, especially our people, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans who are the true children of Israel. 2/3 of you have the biggest wool over your eyes out here. As I was walking to my little spot, I saw a Jake and his overweight wife. They taking wedding pictures. She had the white wedding dress on, which she not a virgin. Jake all hugged up on his boo, taking pictures. The bridesmaids, which, hey, a few of them did look pretty good, but that's besides the point. The bridesmaids, everybody around clapping and having a good time, not taking heed to the fact that this world is collapsing all around us, and there's about to be pandemonium, mayhem, hell, death, destruction, famines, cannibalism, pestilences taking streets on not just the entire planet, but especially on the streets of the United States of America as judgments from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai for all the wickedness and iniquity you people have been committing. But without further ado, let's get into the scriptures. This is Matthew chapter 24. I'm going to start at verse 37, and it's in red letters, so it's Yahweh Shai Hamashayak, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus Christ, the Son of the Most High, speaking of what? These end times prophecies taking place as we speak. But as the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving into marriage. You got a Jake, Northern Tribes, in my original spot over there. He's sitting down, drinking a pineapple lemonade brisk and eating a fried pork taco over there, eating and drinking, and people married and given into marriage. Those Jakes overtaking their wedding pictures until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And we know that Noah was a prophet in the past, prophesying for around 100 years while he was building the ark, that terrible times and mass death and destruction were coming. But what did those people do during Noah's time? Bullshitting like they're doing now. They were going up and scoffing at Noah, saying, hey, water has never come from the sky before, because at that time, water didn't come from the sky. When you read in the first, I think Genesis chapter 2, it said that the earth was watered by a mist that came up from the ground, which you would consider to be morning dew. So water coming from the sky was just an asinine thing for people to hear back then. Just like people think it's asinine that there's going to be a World War III or nuclear destruction. And just like what Noah had to go through, we're going through the same things right now. Here we are prophesying of terrible, deadly times to come. But the majority of people out here, which we're only concerned about our people, the majority of our people out here just continue to come up and scoff at us and talk shit. Well, that's never going to happen. Oh, y'all been saying that for decades at this point. Oh, I heard about this shit from my grandparents and we're still here. But as I said, until the day Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came and took them all away, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. And so people are going to continue to scoff and talk shit and be reprobate demons out here until that judgment really starts laying that hammer down on them. And the coming of the Son of Man is ultimately talking about those nuclear missiles, which Yahushua is going to make his second coming when those nuclear missiles fly. But leading up to that, Jacob's trouble, hey, that's going to catch a lot of people off guard like a thief in the night. When these food shortages and famines really hit, and you go to the stores and you can't find anything, and then you're gonna see the truly animalistic nature of people out here. And we got a little hint of that during the first lockdowns when this C-19 thing started back in 2019 and 2020. I remember seeing videos of people fighting at the store over a last case of water. One guy actually got jugged up with a knife because people were so in a erratic state, seeing how the store shelves were empty and there were only a few goods left. So people, and things were still good back then, and people were fighting over things. How much more now when these food shortages that are coming, these famines that are coming, are going to be unlike anything ever seen in human history. Hey, you've got the head of the World Food Group, David Beasley, saying that we're coming into a time of a perfect storm on top of a perfect storm, speaking of these famines. And hey, it's not just going to be the third world that's affected, but the first world is going to be affected as well. United States of America, UK, Europe, all that. And if you've been paying attention, they don't really talk about it that much in the mainstream news, but in the alternative news, they talk about how more than hundreds of processing plants all across the US and all across the planet have been mysteriously burning down, getting hit by helicopters or airplanes and destroyed, just further exacerbating supply chain disruptions, leading to emptier and emptier store shelves out here. And a lot of that is by design, by the elites who want to bring about a manufactured famine to get you people in a desperate, chaotic state out here, so they can bring that order out of chaos, that order out of KO, which is ultimately going to be predicated upon you people getting that charagma, the MARKOFTHEBEAST in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, which is the RFID/NFC MICROCHIPIMPLANT. And besides that, you've got this bird flu going around, which is causing a lot of farmers to have to cull chicken and turkey stocks in the country. I think I really wish I would have got a chance to watch the video before I came in to do this lesson, but there's a guy called Poplar Preparedness who just did a video, and the little thumbnail said US government culls 400,000 turkeys. And then besides that, globally, I think around 70 million altogether chickens and turkeys have been taken out of the supply due to the bird flu. So what? That's an example of pestilences, which is what? Going to lead into famines. Hey, these biblical prophecies are taking place right before our very eyes. But again, just like in the days of Noah, people were eating and drinking and giving in marriage until the flood came. But shit, the spirit kind of brought me onto talking about these famines, so we'll get into that a little bit. Back in Matthew chapter 24, but I'm gonna jump up to verse 7. For nation shall rise against nation, speaking of race wars, which are coming, and you can clearly see they're brewing in the United States of America. Just go to any, and this is a small example, but hey, people on the internet, because of that anonymity, feel like they can show their true intentions and how they really feel on the comment sections without any repercussions. Go look at any of these new movies coming out, like The Little Mermaid, for example, where they got a Eve playing Ariel, and you'll see Edomites bitching and moaning on it, talking about race swapping and how they're ruining our heritage and our culture and all that. A lot of these Edomites feel this way out here, that you so-called niggers, spics, and tontos, and you people of other nations are diluting that good old American way. And they really gonna start showing their horns out here. It's gonna go from talking shit on the comment section to really throwing lead on these streets, and vice versa. And these other nations are going to lock horns with these Edomites as well. And kingdom against kingdom, these major countries going against each other. The U.S. versus Russia, Russia versus Ukraine, China versus Taiwan, Israel versus Iran, which is ultimately going to culminate into World War III, which is going to go nuclear. And there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in diverse places. And earthquakes are taking place damn near daily all across the planet. And I just gave some examples of pestilences, with the bird flu killing off a lot of turkeys and chickens, which will, hey, exacerbate and lead into these famines. And I can say this is the first time I've ever saw it. My local Walmart, even during the lockdowns with the C-19, while a lot of the store shelves for canned goods and toilet paper and stuff like that was empty, the produce section was always filled up. But the last couple of times I've been by my local Walmart, the produce section looked damn near empty. And that's, like I said, that's something I've never seen before. But I can easily believe it, because besides these food processing plants being destroyed out here, and supply chain disruptions, you've got a lot of U.S. farmers out here complaining about how adverse weather events like floodings and droughts have really hampered their ability to plant a sufficient amount of crops. And the crops we're eating this year is the crop yield from 2021. And 2021 wasn't a good year. And 2022 damn sure wasn't a good year. So when we get into 2023 and you see emptier store shelves of food, and that's because, again, supply chain disruptions, food processing plants being destroyed, and a lot of farmers' croplands being adversely affected by weather events. They're saying that the droughts that are taking place in the western half of the United States of America right now is the worst droughts that's been seen in about 1,200 years. And the Mississippi River is drying up. It's just a whole host of events that are taking place, which is going to further exacerbate these famines and these calamities that Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is bringing to this planet, especially to the United States of America, to judge you people for all the wickedness you've been committing. But now I'm going to jump into the Apocrypha. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15. I might just start at verse 1. And the Most High has a bone to pick with the United States of America and you Edomites. This was the #1 place that afflicted the apple of his eye, the children of Israel. So the U.S., Babylon the Great, and it's also known as spiritual Sodom in Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, is going to receive the brunt of these judgments and these calamities of Jacob's trouble once they truly start popping off. Take a sip of water real quick. This is 2nd Esdras chapter 15. I'm going to start at verse 1. Behold, speak thou in the ears of my people the words of prophecy, which I will put in thy mouth, saith the Lord. And as it says in Revelation chapter 19 verse 10, and I fell at his feet to worship him, and he said unto me, see thou do it not. I am thy fellow servant of thy brethren that have the testimony of Yahweh Shai. And this was John the Revelator, when the angels were ministering to him, and he saw the visions that he wrote down, which led to the book of Revelation. And he wanted to worship at the angel's feet, but the angel said, do this not. I am thy fellow servant, thy brother, and given the testimony of Yahweh Shai. But the point, worship the Most High, for the testimony of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. Hey, if you're a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American man that understands these scriptures and can break them down, it's your duty to go out onto the highways and byways, and as well as put video epistles online, breaking down the scriptures, prophesying, because we're in the end times, the times of prophecy right now. As Apostle Tahar says, hey, there should be a Israelite camp on damn near every street block across the United States of America, a camp of Israelites everywhere prophesying the good news, which is the downfall of the United States of America and this age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly these Edomites as a whole. And he also said, what did he say? Hey, we should be really getting into these prophetic scriptures right now, because these are the times we're living in, with all these end time signs that the prophets saw visions of and wrote down thousands of years ago taking place right before our very eyes, and caused them to be written in paper, written on the scrolls back then, translated all the way down to today, with the prophets out here prophesying this word, and caused them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. And as it says in Isaiah 55 verse 11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. Everything written to take place in the scriptures, which these people out here know as the Bible, the Old and the New Testament, and as well as the Apocrypha, which is a part of the Old Testament, will take place, and nothing will avert biblical prophecy from coming to its fulfillment. So you people out there that hear the prophets of the Lord out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up these video epistles, you can bitch and moan all you want, but hey, we're just the messenger. They got that saying, don't shoot the messenger. We're simply out here preaching these words, and it's the Most High that's bringing it to pass. And again, nothing will happen to avert these prophecies from coming to their fulfillment. So if you're an Israelite, a so-called Negro, Latino, or Native American, and you do have the Israelite foreigners that look like these heathen nations, but hey, if you've heard this word and it resonates with your spirit, and you're not getting off your ass to change your life and come back to your power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, you're going to get put to death in a horrific way, and you deserve it. You deserve it 100-fold. And the Most High is, hey, the men of the Lord are sick of seeing you fucking scumbag niggas, spicks, and tontos out here not taking heed to the word, wanting to be everything else under the sun but who you are, the children of Israel. So think about it, how much more the Most High, as it says in Isaiah chapter 1, hey, the whole head is sick. Why should they be afflicted anymore? Roughly paraphrasing. Hey, the Most High is chastising you jakes here and there. Not I wouldn't even say a little bit. Like our whole time in America has been a fucking shit show. But the Most High really hadn't dropped that hammer on you jakes yet. As it says, Jacob's trouble is going to be a time like no other in human history. It's going to be worse than the days of the flood, World War I, World War II, the transatlantic slave trade, any horrific time in human history. The times we're coming into now, they won't hold a candle to it. I'll get that real quick. I've been going into this Daniel's a lot lately. This is Daniel's chapter 12, verse 1. And at that time shall Michael stand up, the prince which standeth up for the children of thy people. And the times are going to be so bad that the archangel Michael is going to have to stand up and help defend the elect of the nation of Israel. So if you're not of that elect number, what do you think your end's going to be? It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows and lollipops and fried chicken. And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation, even to that same time, a time like no other, the days of Jacob's trouble, where the Most High is going to open up and unleash his wrath to its fullest one last time on the children of Israel. And again, after this, there's not going to be any other time that was like the time of Jacob's trouble. We're talking about nuclear destruction, global famines of biblical proportions, horrific pestilences, all these things. Cannibalism's coming back in a big way, which we're going to get into a little bit too. Just nothing can hold a candle to it. And at that time thy people shall be delivered, everyone that shall be found written in the book, the elect of the nation of Israel, the elect of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, as well as the Israelite foreigners that look like these heathens. But as for the wicked of our people, 2/3 in America, and the wicked globally, that's going to be your ass in that day. Now I'm going to jump to Jeremiah 30 verse 7. Alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. Again, a time like no other, that time of Jacob's trouble, but he shall be saved out of it. That he being who? The elect, the men and women that were found written in the book of life. Now let's get back to the 2nd Esdras 15. Esau and his girlfriend had to get the fuck. 2nd Esdras 15 verse 2. And cause them to be written in paper, for they are faithful and true. Fear not the imaginations against thee. Let not the incredulity of them trouble thee that speak against thee. Hey, the wicked of our people that constantly come against this word, they say that God loves everybody, that everybody can be saved, that the heathens aren't going into slavery, that God's a woman, that just all the there is no Most High, that the Most High and His Son don't have the appearance of so-called Negroes. All this bullshit we hear our people constantly say. Oh, I'm a more Muslim, a Kemetic, I'm American, white lives matter, all that bullshit. Hey, don't let these people bother you, because these people are about to die a horrific death. They're gonna die, their women are gonna die, their grandparents, their parents, their children are gonna die. It's going to be horrific, as it says in 2nd Esdras chapter 9, that death by pain. And as it's about to say in verse 4, for all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness. Point blank, period. And as it says in Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4, the men that are sighing and crying for all the abominations that are being done, in Babylon and across the entire planet, are going to receive that mark, or that thawah of exemption on their forehead. So when these death angels start going through the streets of America and globally, just wreaking havoc on our people, hey, those that have that thawah on their forehead, they're going to be exempt from that judgment. So I'm going to get that. Don't want to paraphrase it, because these are things that needs to be said. Again, because we're living in the last days, really the last seconds of the last days, when that dam of destruction is about to break loose, and that flood of judgments from Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is about to wash away every goddamn body, especially the wicked of our people. This is Ezekiel chapter 9 verse 4. And Yahweh said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem. And we know that Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. So this is talking about the nation of Israel, wherever we may be scattered. The U.S., Europe, Africa, those Asian countries, etc., etc. And set a mark, a thawah, that thawah of exemption upon their foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And the prophets out on the highways and hedges, as well as putting up video epistles online, chiefly through GMS or Great Millstone, as well as the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS, out prophesying to our people of the terrible times to come and what they need to do to find salvation, and just prophesying against this wicked kingdom as a whole. You got pedophiles running around, the people of the alphabet group beginning with LG running around, freaks and weirdos, rapists, thugs, and especially these crackers, these Edomites, running around without chains, because they deserve to be in chains and go into slavery, which is exactly what's coming after this nuclear dust settles. Jake with his little daughter sitting at that same bench the Edomite and his girlfriend were at, they leaving now. Hey, that's the word for you. And hey, he heard the word, his little daughter looked back and heard the word. So if they don't take heed, which I doubt they will, because he's got some hoochie daddy shorts on. Shout out to the hoochie private out there. It's an inside joke. Hey, he got them hoochie shorts on. Hey, it's a good chance he ain't gonna make it. His daughter ain't gonna make it, and he's gonna be a casualty. And this is Ezekiel chapter 9 that I'm reading. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city, and smite. Let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity. When these death angels get their orders from the Most High to go through and start wreaking havoc, and they're not going to stop until the Most High tells them to stop. They're going to be like the Terminator. They don't eat, they don't sleep, they absolutely will not stop until you're dead. Verse 6, slay utterly, old and young, the elderly, the children, infants, both maids and little children, and women, men, women, virgins, whores. But come not near any man whom is the mark, that the wa of exemption. And then you have women of the elect as well that are going to have that the wa on their foreheads, and they're going to be exempt from this judgment. You're going to have that large multitude, those that weren't prophets, but they were friends of the prophets, wives of the prophets, children of the prophets, all that. They're going to have that the wa of exemption on their foreheads as well to be safe from these calamities. But as for everybody else, and begin at my sanctuary, then they began at the ancient men, which were before the house. Hey, the elderly, these older jakes out here who should have led the younger generations in the right direction. Not just talking about these jakes in the civil rights movement, but hey, a lot of these heads of these different camps out here, these grand bishops, these captains and generals and all that, a lot of y'all took the bag and have led our people astray. So the Most High is going to begin at the heads of the ancient and put your fucking ass to death. As it says in Peter's, begin at my sanctuary. Hey, this judgment is going to come to those that know they're Israelites, and then it's going to trickle down to the rest of the nation. So with that being the case, hey, we need to be on our P's and Q's right now, doing everything we can to diligently stay in the good graces of our power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, so we don't receive this heat. But back to that 2 Esdras 15, verse 4. For all the unfaithful shall die in their unfaithfulness, old and young, maids, little children, women, men. Behold, saith Yahweh, I will bring plagues upon the world, the sword, famine, death, and destruction. And that doesn't sound like a sweet baby Jesus or the God of Christianity. This is the true powers. Yahweh, which is the true name of the Heavenly Father, and his son, Yahweh Shai. Hey, they coming to bring great mass death, destruction to the people, the wicked people on this planet. And they're not going to have any pity or remorse on these people. For wickedness hath exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and their hurtful works are fulfilled. And since these are the last times, this is the most wicked the planet Earth has ever been. This is more wicked than ancient Sodom and Gomorrah, than the days of Noah. Hey, it's a time like no other. So it's going to receive the most horrific judgment ever seen in all of human history. And this place needs to go. If this place were allowed to go on any much longer, you'd have grown-ass men identifying as 6-year-old girls, having a literal 6-year-old girlfriend walking around, and everything's normal, and dare you to say anything about it because their so-called civil rights is protected by the government. You got these chemtrails getting sprayed in the sky, GMO foods, and cell phone and Wi-Fi radiation giving people cancer. I did a video a couple of days ago showing how due to these microplastics and other things like bisphenol A and these PPSAs, if I'm saying it correctly, just all these different chemicals that are found in like our plastic containers and Tupperwares and just everyday appliances around here are causing men's testosterone levels to go down and have lower sperm counts. And we're at a point to where men are at the lowest they've ever been as being men with testosterone. You got a lot of different people out here saying you got to take testosterone supplements to try to build that back up. Just complete madness out here. They're feminizing the men out here. They're making the women masculine with feminism, which we can see the fruits of that labor. The majority of these women out here are old, young now, used up, stank pussy bitch whores with tattoos, voices like sailors because they smoking cigarettes all goddamn day, drinking themselves into a coma. The list goes on and on. I was talking about this with the elder brother last night, and he agreed. And I'm sure those of you that are watching can agree as well. Just take a look at the average woman you see nowadays, whether she be younger or older, and they just get more worn out with each passing year. Again, more tattoos, just deeper masculine voices, more bad built. This place just has to go. As it says back in Matthew chapter 24, if the Most High didn't shorten these days for the elect's sake, no flesh would be saved. Esau would turn this planet into a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland. But, damn ant. But, hey, call hello Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai, that he set bounds that this devil cannot pass. And he's just about to reach those bounds. He's about to be taken out of power. Back in 2nd Esdras chapter 15, verse 7. Therefore, saith Yahweh, I will hold my tongue no more as touching their wickedness, which they profanely commit, neither will I suffer them in those things in which they wickedly exercise themselves. And we can see that the Most High is no longer holding his tongue. We're starting to see all these end-time signs begin to take place as we speak. That war in Ukraine has kicked off a lot of stuff out here. It's led to a energy shortage crisis in Europe. It's going to lead to a food shortage crisis. It's setting in motion World War III, which is going to lead to nukes. And you're seeing just these people out here just getting more violent and chaotic. Down here in New Orleans, they might as well just call this place Grand Theft Auto New Orleans or some shit, because I got the Newsbreak app, and just this morning, I wish I could show it, but I'm recording on my phone. There was There was a rape last night by where I live, attempted rape. 5 people were shot. I think 7 people were shot. A taxi driver got killed in a wreck. A woman got killed in a wreck. It's just chaos every goddamn day and night down here. And it's not just here, it's all across the United States of America. And of course, up in Illinois on either January 1st or January 3rd, a lot of major crimes up there, due to them restructuring how their cash bail system works, are going to become non-essential crimes, pretty much decriminalized. And that includes second-degree murder, kidnapping, burglary. I mean, the only thing that isn't left is first-degree murder. So it'll be interesting to see what that's going to lead to up in Illinois. And best believe measures like that are going to spread to the rest of the country. You've got the police forces getting defunded. A lot of cops leaving the job because the police have such a negative perception right now, and they didn't want to take the C-19 jump shot. So there are less police patrolling the streets. So what's that mean? More crime, more pandemonium's going to take place. And then what's that going to lead to? The authorities, the powers that be, being justified in bringing about a state of martial law, where you're going to have them big boys on the streets, soldiers, NATO troops, UN troops, and mercenaries putting people down like dogs, because they ain't going to give a shit about you American citizens. A lot of these troops that are going to be on the streets of America are going to be from countries that the U.S. had bombed and overthrown their governments. So they saw the women of their family get raped, the men of their family get butchered and tortured. They just seen their country bomb back to the Stone Ages. So what do you think they're gonna do once they get their hands on you fat and juicy Americans? Hey, they're gonna be buck wild down here. Behold, the innocent and the righteous blood crieth unto me, and the souls of the just complain continually. Hey, the men that sigh and cry for all the abominations that are being done here. Hey, the men of the Lord down here on earth complaining and sighing and crying about this wicked society, and even the elect that are in the spirit world right now, they're complaining before the throne of the Heavenly Father, asking how long before this society is destroyed. Verse 9, and therefore saith Yahweh, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. Hey, the Most High is going to get a recompense for the afflictions that have taken place to his people. Hey, chiefly, well, the elect right now, because the wicked are going to get cut down. But the Most High, again, he's no longer holding his tongue at all the abominations that are being done in this society. He's about to truly let open those floodgates and just let this destruction just flow and wash these people away. Verse 9, and therefore, saith the Lord, I will surely avenge them and receive unto me all the innocent blood from among them. Behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt. And this isn't talking about ancient Egypt under those Hamites, or so-called Africans, Mizraim. This is talking about this modern day spiritual Egypt as pursuant to Revelation 11 verse 8, which I'll give. This is Revelation 11 verse 8. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually, that's the key word, spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And that great city is speaking of the good old US of A. And we can clearly see why it's known as spiritual Sodom. This is the #1 nation that pushes that alphabet lifestyle beginning with LG onto the rest of the planet. I did a video on it the other day. Yeah, got some kids in some Halloween costumes. Yeah, that's just a family of dead people. They're following after the heathenistic pagan practices, which the Most High asked us not to do, or told us not to do, commanded us not to do. And for our people following after these dead and dumb idols, they're gonna get put to death for it. And good riddance. That's funny too. You got man, you cannot make this up. It's not only is it a Judite family, but one little girl is dressed like an out-and-out witch. She got the pointy hat and the broomstick. You got one little girl, one little Eve girl, dressed like Maleficent. That I think that was Snow White. She got the little horns, little Baphomet horns on her head, and the other little Jake is dressed like a damn pirate. Man. But yeah, it's easy to see this place as spiritual Sodom. Just look at what happened in the month of June. You had a Pride Month, and then they just came out with this one movie called Bros, which was a sodomite comedy that completely flopped. And this place is known as spiritual Egypt because it's serving in the exact same function that ancient Egypt served for the children of Israel, as a place of hardcore bondage and slavery. And Halloween. And before I came to camp, I watched a very beautiful, edifying video that the elder brother Malcolm of the Chicago camp did on his page, GMS Maccabean Spirit Ba. The title was something along the lines on Mr. Yee was correct in talking about our race. And it was just going into some beautiful information where they were showing that archaeologists found that in Egypt, the so-called Negroid people there had different shaped skull sizes because they were different people. Again, you had the ancient Egyptians who were Hamites, who were afflicting the children of Israel. And then you had the children of Israel who were also a Negroid people, but they weren't Hamites. They were Israelites from originally from our forefather Shem. And they could tell the difference because they had different skull shapes. The non-Egyptian Negroid type people had a longer skull, and they found those same exact skull shapes in skulls of Negroid people in the United States of America. So what does that mean? The same people that were back there in ancient Egypt are the same people that are back here today in modern day spiritual Egypt. And just look at a lot of the different symbolisms of the United States of America. I may have a $1 bill on me. Let me see. Yes, I do. You know what that is? That pyramid with that all-seeing eye. Then you got the Washington Monument, which is an obelisk. You've got that award that they win in Hollywood, which goes back to an Egyptian god called Ptah. You've got the places like in Memphis, in Tennessee, called Memphis, which was an ancient place in Egypt. They got a pyramid up in Memphis. They got the Mirage or the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, which is a pyramid with a recreation of the Sphinx in front of it. And then I just found out that they got a place in Illinois called Cairo, Illinois. You can't make this shit up. Hey, the scriptures are true. Every word is faithful and true. So this is spiritual Egypt. And just like ancient Egypt was plagued for afflicting the children of Israel, this modern day spiritual Egypt is going to be plagued for afflicting the children of Israel. And these modern day Egyptians, these Edomites, are going to get them plagues too. But back in 2 Esdras chapter 15, behold, my people is led as a flock to the slaughter. I will not suffer them now to dwell in the land of Egypt, spiritual Egypt, the United States of America. And hey, the elect aren't going to be suffered to dwell in here, because once those nukes hit this place, they're going to get beamed up onto the chariots and saved from this great destruction. But I will bring them with a mighty hand and a stretched out arm. Hey, the Most High having that protective hedge over us during all these different calamities of Jacob's trouble. The famines, the pestilences, the race wars, martial law, and then ultimately, again, getting beamed up onto the chariots to be saved from this nuclear destruction. And smite Egypt with plagues as before, and will destroy all the land thereof. Egypt shall mourn, and the foundation of it shall be smitten with the plague and the punishment that the Most High shall bring upon it. And we can see these different plagues are hitting this place. Bird flu, killing off a lot of chickens and turkeys. This whole C-19 thing that's taken place over the past couple of years. Food processing plants getting destroyed. Empty store shelves, food shortages, and as talks of a recession and inflation, which is really going to be hyperinflation and a Great Depression, the greatest depression. Economic collapse is coming to the U.S. and ultimately those nuclear missiles. But right now, hey, I was originally going to deal with the nukes, and I was going to go into, just the different things taking place. Now I'm on the famines. Hey, the spirit goeth where it listeth. Verse 13, they that till the ground shall mourn. And who are those that till the ground? Farmers. And we can clearly see that farmers are mourning. Like I've been saying throughout the video, a lot of farmers are complaining that due to mega droughts and floodings in different parts of the country, it's keeping them back from planting a sufficient amount of crops. And then also, due to rising diesel prices, that's keeping them back from planting crops. And then just, farmers are getting hit with taxes, going bankrupt, all that. I remember before 2019 and this whole C-19 thing took place, in like 2015 to 2018, there was a mass rate of U.S. farmers committing suicide because they were just in debt and just couldn't keep their head above water. So, hey, those that till the ground definitely are mourning, and they're going to continue to mourn. For their seeds shall fail through the blasting and hail, and with a fearful constellation. All these different calamities that the Most High is bringing to this place. Droughts, flooding, high gas prices, etc., etc. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. And that one people standing up and fighting against another goes into a whole host of things. Nations rising against nations. There are these race wars with one nation of people or one race of people fighting against another. Class wars with the rich versus the poor. Political wars with the conservatives or liberals versus conservatives or Republicans versus liberals or Democrats. which a second civil war is going to take place in the U.S., as it says in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, modern day spiritual Egyptians, these American Edomites against each other, brother against brother, city against city, etc., etc. And hey, best believe these people are going to go after those in the government as well. A lot of people are waking up to the fact that their government selected officials don't have their best interests at heart. These people are going to take to the streets and take to the offices and start putting these people down. I did a video about a year ago showing that with each successive year, threats towards those in the government has increased. And in the information I read in that article, these people weren't just making little old bullshit threats. Some people were threatening their congressmen and senators that, look, I'm going to get you, I'm going to skin you alive, and I'm going to kill you. They were on that type of time. And best believe it will happen. And that sword in their hands is ultimately talking about the gun. But people are going to be using anything they can get their hands on in that day. Literal swords, machetes, chains, knives, Molotov cocktails, hammers, everything. This is the nastiness of the scriptures. This is the truth of the scriptures. This is what is coming to all the people on this planet. But the majority of people aren't going to take heed because they've been they're engulfed in wickedness and blinded by the prince of this world. People dressed up in Halloween costumes, getting married, talking shit, looking busted and disgusted, overweight, obese scumbag, all that. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. And the definition for that word sedition is conduct or speech inciting open rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. And I kind of jumped the gun on verse 15, explaining about how people are really getting in that seditious spirit and seeing how their government officials aren't for their best interests. So they really going to take it to them with swords in their hands. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are those in the government. Mayors, senators, governors, presidents, prime ministers, as well as the authorities that uphold the system, like the police or the military. And over in Europe, due to this cost of living crisis, this energy crisis as a result of the war in Ukraine, you got a lot of people in countries like Paris protesting, and in other parts of Europe protesting, saying, look, we can't keep paying these bills. Fuck it, we're not going to pay them. They're getting in clashes with the police. And in Germany, they've already putting soldiers around the capital for what? In response to this dark winter that's coming, and just these food shortages and energy shortages that are coming as well. People are going to not regard their kings and princes and go and attack them. So they're preparing accordingly. Hence why they're putting them people in place. But as we can clearly see, sedition amongst men is brewing, and it's coming to the United States of America. And like I said, all these calamities that are going to take place are going to be the worst in the U.S. And the course of their actions shall stand in their power. And like it says in the book of Judges, and every man did what was right in his eyes in those days. These people out here are going to be getting it how they live. And it's going to be bloody disgusting. You're about to see a truly animalistic nature of people out here. And just look at how these people have been conditioned to just be selfish scumbags out here. This is the Instagram, TikTok, Twitter generation, where everybody's just concerned about putting up this false image of this life they're not living. Everybody's just a vain, greedy piece of shit out here. So when they start getting this death and judgment and destruction, it's much well deserved. And as it says in Proverbs chapter 1, and though that's talking about our people, they best believe we're going to be doing it to these heathens as well. It says, I will laugh at your calamity and mocketh at you when it cometh. When these people out here start getting that judgment, hey, the men of the Lord are going to laugh at them. Because look, you've been coming and scoffing and just being a demon the whole time. So now you got to eat those words. You've been laughing at us, and we're going to get our time to laugh at you. And when I was talking to the elder brother yesterday, he was telling me about a dream he had of Jacob's trouble, where him, me, pretty much the brothers down here, and some of the brothers in California, I think he said it was just the elder of California, we were standing on a street corner, and it was just all hell breaking loose. You had he said there was a Russian helicopter, which I believe is called a Hind D, the model he was talking about, and a jet that's able to hover in place, which I believe is called a Harrier. We were all on the street corner, and you had our people and other people just running, screaming, not knowing what's going on because it's Jacob's trouble. And the helicopter and the Harrier just started shooting at people on the block and just ripping them to pieces. And you know what the brother told me? He said we were all joking and laughing about it. So hey, that's exactly what we're going to be doing in that day. Joking and laughing and mocking at you people when your calamity cometh. And again, it's much deserved, because these people out here, the best thing for them is death. Because they're doing more harm, especially the wicked of our people. You're doing more harm being alive than being up in the spirit world. But I digress. Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. And what does that sound like? A state of martial law. Lockdowns, which of course over the past couple of years we saw a example of. And best believe lockdowns and a state of martial law is coming now. What did you just hear? It might have been Faust. You know who? Anton Faust. He said on, it was either him that said it, but I definitely read an article where some university in Boston said they synthesized a new lethal strain of the Cragamuffin 1.9 that had an 80% kill rate among the mouse they were testing it on. Why would you do something like that? Unless, I'm not going to get too deep into it. And of course, you've had these people that have taken the jungle juice out here, and you can look up and see that there's a whole host of adverse effects and people exiting the stage, as we'll say it, from that. Don't forget about the monkeypox, or the Marburg, polio, which is popping up again in New York, and down in Haiti, they're saying they're having an outbreak of cholera. Just another example of the pestilences that are coming. And it says in 2 Esdras 16 that many that perish upon the earth shall perish because of plagues and the sword and famines. But with all that being said, lockdowns are coming again. And if you go out onto the street, pop your head out the door, and they're going to put 3 in your head like a bowling ball. They turn you into a human dolphin with your own personal blowhole in your forehead. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. These judgments are coming for the pride and the wickedness of these people, which, as we read earlier in 2 Esdras chapter 15, a wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth. These people are at the lowest and the basest they've ever been, which only makes sense because this society is being ruled by the basest of the heathens, the basest of the men, these Edomites, the so-called white people. And as it says in Psalms chapter 12, the wicked walk on every side when the vilest men are exalted. And these Edomites, they're still in, even though their power is going down, they're still in rulership, so they're exalted as the top people right now. So hence, if the vilest men are being exalted, that's why you got all these wicked goons and goblins celebrating Halloween running around. Before I get into that, I'm going to jump to 2 quick precepts. This is 2 Esdras chapter 8, verse 50. For many great miseries shall be done to them that in the latter time, the times we're living in right now, shall dwell in the world, because they have walked in great pride. For because of their pride, the city shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. All these calamities coming. This is 2 Esdras chapter 5, verse 1. Nevertheless, as concerning the tokens, behold, the days shall come, that they which dwell upon the earth shall be taken in a great number. Why? Because they've walked in great pride. And the way of truth shall be hidden, and the land shall be barren of faith. And we can't forget that the fame of the word is coming as well, to where the men of the Lord are no longer going to be out on the highways and byways and the hedges, being able to be seen preaching this word. And our video epistles are no longer going to be on the internet. And we can already see that they're putting all those pieces in play to demonize this word and scrub it. Just look at what's going on with the saga of Ye, Mr. Kanye West, which I believe he's set up controlled opposition. He goes on to Fox News with Tucker Carlson talking about how so-called black people are the 12 tribes of Judah, which, what he was saying, not about the 12 tribes of Judah part, but about so-called black people being Jews. He was right about that. But then it's not the 12 tribes of Judah, it's the 12 tribes of Israel. And it's not just so-called Negroes of the Southern Kingdom. It's also so-called Latinos and Native Americans of the Northern Kingdom that comprise the 12 tribes. He was talking about how Margaret Sanger helped set up Planned Parenthood to delete so-called Negro children, which everything he was saying, he wasn't lying about it. But what did they say it was? It was anti-Sem, which is no thing as Semitic. There is Shem, Shemitic, one of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, which the Israelites came out of Shem, the Edomites, which those people over in the Holy Land are, Amalekite Edomites, they're Shem, and those Palestinians, those so-called Arabs, those Ishmaelites are also Shemites. Wouldn't that be considered anti-Shem for them attacking those Palestinians? Would it be considered anti-Sem for them wanting to start a war against Iran because those Iranians are Elamites who also come out of the children of Shem? I'll let you be the judge. Hey, don't believe the hype. Hey, these Edomites are being exposed out here. And again, I believe that Kanye West is an agent being set up to put these things out here to demonize the word, to bring about the famine of the word, which it's coming regardless. Thus saith the scriptures. But back in 2 Esdras chapter 15, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods. Why? Because of the lack of bread or food and for great tribulation. So point blank period. As I was talking about earlier in the lesson, famines and food shortages are coming. And like David Beasley of the UN World Food Program said, it's going to be a perfect storm upon a perfect storm. Famines of biblical proportions. It's not just going to be bad in third world countries, but it's going to be bad in first world countries as well, to the point to where a man will have no pity upon his neighbor, but spoil their house with the force of the sword, the gun, amidst whatever weapon they're going to be using that day, due to the lack of bread and for great tribulation. All these other calamities taking place out here. People that used to be so-called best friends, your neighbor down the street, your family members, or all that, hey, they're going to become bitter enemies in that day when all their bellies start touching their backs and they got to watch their loved ones starve to death. As Henry Kissinger said, you control oil, you control nations, you control food, you control people. Food is one of the biggest and starvation is one of the biggest motivators out there to get people to do what you want. Like I said, a lot of these food processing plants getting destroyed and supply chain disruptions are being orchestrated by the elites, such as your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, the Cargills, the Warburgs, all the DuPonts, all them, to create this chaotic situation out here, to get these people desperate so they'll come and be willing to accept whatever solution that the authorities bring, which again is going to be accepting that charagma in your hand or in your forehead. But now I'm going to jump to 2 Esdras chapter 6. I'll start at verse 20. And when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, this current world or age of the rulership of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites, before the ushering in of the kingdom of heaven under the children of Israel. And we're seeing it vanish away right before our very eyes. The world's about to go into a global depression, economic collapse. There's about to be World War III, which is going to go nuclear, famines, all that. Then will I shew these tokens. The books shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall see altogether. And the books being opened before the firmament are these scriptures being preached from one end of the earth even unto the other. Through what? The unicorn, the internet, with those satellites up in the firmament, or the second heaven, because you got three heavens. You got the first heaven, which is the regular sky, the second heaven, which is space, and then the third heaven, which is the spirit world where the Most High dwells. And in that second heaven, more specifically Leo, low Earth orbit, where those satellites dwell. Brothers make lessons like this and upload them to YouTube or whatever platform, and the satellites beam them from one end of the earth even unto the other, the books being shown forth through the firmament. And as it says in Matthew chapter 24 verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, through the internet or the unicorn. And then what? And then shall the end come. Hence why all these end times prophecies are taking place as we speak. And this earth is about to vanish away completely, and the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Israel, is going to be established for eternity. And the children of a year old shall speak with their voices. The women with child shall bring forth untimely children of 3 or 4 months old, and they shall live and be raised up. And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown. And when a farmer plants his crops into his land, what does he do? He sows them into the land. But as we went into in 2 Esdras chapter 15, the farmers are mourning because their seeds are failing through all these adverse events taking place. Droughts in one part of the country, floods in other parts of the country, and high diesel prices keeping them from sowing their lands with a sufficient amount of crops, which is going to lead into the next part. And the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty. Your Walmarts, Rouses, Kroger's, Publix, Trader Joe's, wherever you get your food and other goods from, the full storehouses are going to be found empty. Empty store shelves due to supply chain disruptions, adverse weather events affecting farmers' croplands, etc., etc. And the trumpet shall give a sound, which when every man heareth, they shall be suddenly afraid. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And what could cause best friends, family members, loved ones to fight one against another like enemies? A main thing is going to be these food shortages that are coming. Again, a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall spoil his house with the force of the sword, due to the lack of bread and for great tribulation. And the earth shall stand in fear with those that dwell therein. The springs of the fountains shall stand still, and in 3 hours they shall not run. The water is also going to get cut off as well. There's going to be blackouts. All these different things are just going to further exacerbate these issues out here. Over in Europe right now and in the UK, some companies are talking about limiting people's water uses due to droughts going on over there. And also over in the western half of the US, they're talking about limiting people's water uses due to these droughts and these dams' water levels decreasing. It's eventually just going to get to the point where they're just going to completely turn off the water, so you won't be able to take a shower, take a bath, take a shit, wash your teeth, all of that. So people are going to be hungry, they're going to be thirsty, they're going to be busted and disgusted out here. And like I said, cannibalism is also in the scriptures, and cannibalism is going to come back in a big way. And what's crazy is on one of those talk shows, you know, like Jimmy Kimmel or whatever it is, There was a hashtag that was trending talking about how, pretty much talking about cannibalism and normalizing it. That's the powers that be psychologically and subconsciously putting that thought in your mind that cannibalism is coming. And of course, you've had all these zombie movies and video games come out over the past 10 years. And what do zombies do? They eat people. And The Walking Dead is just a metaphor for the majority of these people out here, because they're dead mentally and they're walking dead, while you have a small group of those that are in the know trying to survive. And then they got this new movie coming out called Bones and All, where it's this so-called black teenage girl who falls in love with this gutter punk white boy, and they're both cannibalistic killers. So all we're hearing about is talks of cannibalism in the media, but the scriptures say that cannibalism is coming for sure. This is Isaiah chapter 9. I'm going to start at verse 18. For wickedness burneth as the fire, it shall devour the briers and thorns, and shall kindle in the thickets of the forest. And they shall mount like the lifting up of the smoke. Through the wrath of Yahweh of hosts is the land darkened, and the people shall be as the fuel of the fire. And the people being as fuel of the fire is ultimately these nuclear missiles hitting this place and turning it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. That third woe talked about in Revelation chapter 9, verse 12, and Revelation 11, verse, let me see. Revelation 11 verse 14. The second woe is past, speaking of World War II, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly, World War III, which is going to go nuclear. And people are starting to see that fact that nuclear weapons are going to get used. You got Biden talking about a nuclear apocalypse, Putin constantly making threats to the West that if they keep meddling in his affairs, he's going to use his nuclear weapons on them. And now there are talks of a low-yield nukes being used in Ukraine. And in places like New York and I believe New Jersey, they're starting to put warning labels and posters in their subways telling you what to do in the event of a nuclear strike and radiation poisoning. Hey, it's getting put out there in the airwaves, but it's ultimately going to take place because of the scriptures. But this is Isaiah chapter 9, verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise, and garments rolled in blood. And what's that? That ancient warfare. Men with the sandals and the breastplate and the helmets and the swords yelling and running at each other. And then in World War I, what did you have? Those bayonet charges across no man's land where they run at each other and shoot at each other and stab each other with those bayonets. That's the old way of warfare. But let's see what this new way of warfare is. But this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. What's that burning and fuel of fire? That nuclear destruction. And they even gave you a visualization of that in that movie Terminator 2 with that dream that Sarah Connor had, where she saw the nukes hit, people get burned up, and she was holding on to that fence while her skin got ripped off of her body, and you just saw her skeleton holding on to the fence. Well, that's talked about in the scriptures as well. This is Zechariah 14, verse 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. And again, Jerusalem is a people before it's a place. And it's talking about these heathen nations that have fought against the children of Israel, who are, again, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And the main heathen that has fought against the children of Israel, as pursuant to Psalms 83, has been the biblical Edomites, these so-called white people. So this is going to be the plague and the punishment against those that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Them getting burned up by those nuclear missiles. And again, that scene from Terminator 2, Sarah Connor's tongue and eyes and skin literally ripped off of her skeleton while she stood upon her feet when those nuclear missiles hit. And then you had about a year ago, before Russia invaded Ukraine, that Hawaiian Senator Tulsi Gabbard went on to Fox News saying that, look, if the West keeps pushing Russia, don't be surprised if they use nuclear weapons on us, and people will have to face watching themselves and their loved ones see their skin melt off from their bones. Without knowing it, she quoted Zechariah 14 verse 12. But back to Isaiah chapter 9. Through the wrath of Yahweh of hosts is the land darkened. The people shall be as the fuel of the fire. No man shall spare his brother. At that time shall friends fight one against another like enemies. And he shall snatch on the right hand and be hungry. And he shall eat on the left hand, and they shall not be satisfied. They shall eat every man the flesh of his own arm. This cannibalism is going to get so bad out here that people are going to start eating their own flesh off of their bodies. That's how bad these famines are going to be. And it's quickly to come. Let me see. Where's it at? This is it. This is talking about the wicked of our people going through it. But hey, it's going to happen to all these different heathens as well in the U.S. This is Jeremiah chapter 19, verse 9. And I will cause them to eat the flesh of their sons and the flesh of their daughters, and they shall eat every one the flesh of his friend in the siege and straitness wherewith their enemies, and they that seek their lives shall straiten them. And so people are going to be eating their children out of starvation. People are going to be eating their friends. That's how nasty it's going to get. And as we read in Isaiah chapter 9, people are going to be eating their own flesh off of their bodies. And as it said back in 2 Ezra chapter 15, a man shall desire to go into a city, but shall not be able to. Lockdowns, martial law. And as it said in Jeremiah 19, wherewith their enemies, and they that seek their lives shall straiten them in the siege. A lot of you neighborhoods where you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans dwell are going to be cut off and become kill zones. They're going to starve you out. Hence why and where I live too, there's a lot of train tracks around where you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans live. That's so they can roll in those trains and throw you on those trains to send you off to a concentration camp. But hey, they're going to be sending other nations of people to these concentration camps as well to torture them, put them to death. But now, I'm going to close it out in 2 Esdras chapter 16, verse 22. For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. So if you're not of that elect number and you happen to escape starving to death, you're going to get killed by one of these other calamities out here. Getting caught in civil unrest on the streets of America, and these racial skirmishes taking place, getting gunned down by these martial law troops, getting sent to a concentration camp, getting drafted to go fight in World War III because drafting will take place, or ultimately getting burned up by that ultimate sword, the nuclear missiles. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them. For the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. And there's going to be so much death and destruction in that day, and so many dead bodies laying around, that people are going to become numb to it and just step over those dead bodies and not give a second thought to it, like they don't give a second thought to that turd that they flushed down the toilet. And besides, there's going to be so few people to bury those bodies, there'll just be dead bodies everywhere. And that's just going to further exacerbate things, because what do dead bodies breed? Stink, decay, and diseases, pestilences, plagues. So you see all these different judgments of the Most High are going to play into each other and further exacerbate these horrors and calamities that are coming to the wicked people on this planet, chiefly in the United States of America. That's it with this lesson. With this lesson, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say abad babal, abad babal, abad babal, kwam yasharala, shalom.